Right. Hello, everyone. So this is another interview for the Working Minds Gibraltar. And today I have the honor of being here with Nadine. She's
Hello.
the HR and Executive Support Manager, and Kelly, who's the Head of HR and Learning and Development for the Gibraltar Financial Services Commission. So welcome, and thank you for taking the time to, do this interview with me.
Thank you. No problem.
One of the first things I think would be interesting to talk about, because really what it is we're looking at well-being at work is why. I mean, why support our people around well-being, and why do that extra, make that extra effort in ensuring that they're okay?
I think people spend more time at work than they do at home. So it's really important that they enjoy coming to work, and that not only do they work when they're here, but they have a nice time whilst they're here, and they feel supported.
Yeah.
Because it's massive, isn't it? You know, you spend most of your life at work, so you want to enjoy where you are.
Yeah, and if you're happy coming to work, then there's lots of benefits for the organisation as well. You know, a happier workforce is more productive, and you're going to get more out of your staff as well if you invest into your staff. So it's so important. It's a circle, really. The more you put in, the more you're going to get out as well. So there's lots of reasons why well-being is really important, and we really believe in.
Yeah, I really like what you're saying there, because you're really pointing out that it's not a one-way thing in terms of, okay, well, we pay our employees and we're doing this added extra for them. You know, yes, there is a benefit for the people if they are happy to come to work, if they enjoy what they're doing, if they feel engaged, etc. But there is also another benefit for the company, because the company will have people that are more engaged, that are happy to go the extra mile if it's needed, and I guess they stay as well. They don't go somewhere else so easily.
Exactly. Yeah.
What have you, because I know the FSC, you guys have implemented, you've got quite a comprehensive well-being strategy and policy, and have been leading this for a while now. What have you found most challenging in supporting your people?
I think for us, we have a very small budget. So we can't throw big, massive initiatives at people and here's a car, or here's a weekend away, or here's go out for dinner for 4 people. We can't do that because our budget is so small. Yeah. So we've had to be quite inventive with some of the things that we're thinking about. I mean, we're still working on our wellbeing strategy. We haven't got all of the policies in place. We've got quite a few things under the umbrella already: the healthcare, the travel insurance, the EAP, that kind of thing. We've got together our little wellbeing group, and it's just something that we're just going to be working on over the next couple of months.
Because at the end of the day, it's ever changing, isn't it? We have to be able to stay current. We have to be able to constantly be researching what's good for people. And we might try things as well that don't work, because at the end of the day, we're dealing with people and everybody's different, and what might work for one organisation might not work for our organisation because the culture's different. So we might try things that don't work, and we might try things that do work, but I think the important thing is that we're always trying to keep on top of new initiatives that come out, not just trying to stick to the old ways, but also look at new ways that we can be looking at wellbeing for our employees too. And Nadine is really passionate. It's really important to have someone who's really passionate as well about this, because it's always at the forefront of your mind then. And Nadine's putting together a wellbeing team throughout the organisation. So it's not just coming from HR or the senior management team. It's coming from a group of people across the organisation, which is important because we don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Fantastic. So the challenge is kind of figuring out what people need and what will be the most valuable and most impactful for people, and keeping at trying things out and doing new things. So So with that, there's a question I have you, because I think it will be really interesting for the listeners. Have you, done any initiatives, any programs that didn't deliver the outcomes that were desired?
I'm trying to think. At the moment, I don't think so. Like we said, we're just starting to really start planning our wellbeing strategy
in full. Yeah, I think what we have revised are things like the healthcare. So we look and see, well, maybe that didn't work last time with that provider, or maybe our staff wanted more of this benefit. So Nadine does a lot of research across the organisation in terms of feedback. So people come and talk to us all the time about what's not working, what is working. So when we're having a look at our providers and we're looking at what we can get for the budget that we've got in place, that's the type of thing that we might revise year on year. And also everything's a learning what's the word, curve for us, because we might try out the employee assistance program without Nadine talking about that a lot with all of our staff. We might not have had as much uptake, and that wouldn't have been as successful as it has been in helping out our employees. So it's all about kind of putting something in place, but then finding out how it's working and trying to move forward to make it better for everyone.
So am I understanding right, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it's much about what you do, but also how you do it, in terms of what you were saying about Nadine really spending that time. Okay, you have this initiative, you have the employee assistance program, but actually talking to people about it. This is what it's for, this is what you can use it for, etc., so that there is an uptake and there is an engagement, whereas if that wouldn't have happened, perhaps it wouldn't have been taken up so much. So less about okay, this didn't work, but more around, okay, how can we approach this so that it is beneficial?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, going back to the EAP, we were having a look at some of the statistics yesterday, and I know Hannah will go over this more in the panel tomorrow. We had a look, and from 2016 to 2017, we doubled how many people who went to use the service. And we've worked really hard over the last couple of years of reducing the stigma attached to going to see a therapist. There's a lot of people that still think, oh, if my work knows that I'm going to see a therapist, they might think that I can't cope with my work, all of that. And we've made it very open in the office, and we started talking about us going to see the therapist and using the EAP so that people could hear it, and so it's not so taboo anymore. So if people want to go and use the EAP service and talk about it, they don't have to tell anybody what they're going for. But it's nice for people to go, yeah, I've been as well, because it just means that other people think, oh, well, actually maybe I can go too. And we've got like champions here. So we've got a senior member of management who goes, and they don't mind us using their name to tell people that they go. We had another head. So when we talk to people and say, would you like to go and use the service? And they're very much like, maybe not, I don't think so. And then we say, well, did you know that this person went and that person went and they found it really useful? Maybe you could go and have a chat with them. You can see them go, oh, really? There you go. And you can see them almost thinking, well, if it's all right for them to go, then it's all right for me to go. And one thing we did find was, and I think this is the biggest thing about it not being the tick box exercise, is that we make the first appointment for people, because I think that's probably the hardest thing for people to do, is to actually make that appointment and get themselves there. So I found that if we make the first appointment for them, give them the date and the time, and then they can go and see our wonderful counsellor Debbie, and she can keep them there if need be, and get more appointments for them. And I think that's worked really, really well.
Yeah, and that's something that we've learned as well. So left to their own devices, maybe some people would think, no, I'm not going to do it. But actually, if we make the first appointment, and they always come and say thank you, I'm seeing her on a regular basis now, and it's been really helpful. And I think that's been something that we've learned as well, is that taking that first step is sometimes quite hard to do by yourself. So if we can help with that, then we do.
And people tend to think that you only go to see a therapist when you've had something massive happen to you, like a big life-changing experience. And more often than not, it's not about that. It's about all these little things that, they're like building blocks that pile up on each other, and then one day they just fall, and you don't actually know what's the matter with you, because all of these things are so tiny, but it's just built up over time. And we also allow people to come and talk to us as well. We take our HR hats off, so people can just have a rant, get things off their chest, and like we say to them, do you want us to action this, or do you just want us to talk? Do you just want to talk to us? So they find that really helpful as well, don't they?
Sometimes people don't want anything to be actually done. They just want to be able to vent and get things off their chest and have someone listen to them. And if that helps them then get back to work so they can be more productive, then we're happy to do that. So
lovely. So it's helping people over that initial step, and actually I guess there is an educational piece in there around what the support is and what it is there for, rather than I have to have had a breakdown in order to access this, for example. I mean, I often find that with my work as a coach is a lot of people come in and they go, so what is this? What am I, they're nervous about, what is this? Do I have to tell you my life story? What are we going to do now? And because, they haven't done it before, or maybe they have seen a therapist before and they don't quite know this distinction between a coach and a therapist. So it's very interesting. That initial thing is usually the bit that's the most difficult, and helping them over that if that's what they want. But also, what I heard you say was that as a company, as an organization as a whole, there is a real how do you say, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not sure. But a real drive to, looking after your own well-being, and not just when there is a problem, but actually looking at, okay, where can I make improvements in my life? How can I, maybe have better relationships at work and at home? This is just an example, but, what are the bits that could be better? And then getting, specialist support to implement those things. And what happens, and that's very much my experience, when it happens across an organization and also from the top down, then suddenly it's actually something people desire, because they look up to their peers, their managers, their senior exec team, and they go, well, they're using this in order to better themselves. Well, maybe I can use it to better myself. It doesn't mean that I am broken or there's something wrong with me. Actually, it turns it around into something very positive, very proactive.
It definitely, and I completely agree. And I think some people think that if they have to go and see a therapist or a counsellor, they think it's going to be for like a year or something. Sometimes you just need to go for 1 or 2 sessions, because you might just be going through something that lasts a couple of weeks or 2 months, and just being able to speak to somebody allows you to see it and view it in a completely different way.
And the important thing as well is to remember that why it's so beneficial is because when you go and see someone who is not part of your everyday life, you don't have to worry about how your words are going to affect them. You can just go and speak. And that's so freeing sometimes to be able to do that, because you're not thinking about anybody else in that moment. You're able to just say how you feel and what's on your mind. And sometimes that's half the battle as well. So
being able to freely communicate with someone.
Exactly.
So Kelly, you're also heading up learning and development, and so this is a question that really interests me, because for me, I look at well-being as a spectrum, and on one side we have sort of mental illness, and on the other side we have people that are thriving, that are engaged, that are enjoying what they're doing, whether that's progressing in their work and in their life, or whether that's thriving, happy where I am, and everything is good, right? And so I see my work's very much on that side of the spectrum, and I'm interested in your view how learning and development and training plays into people's well-being? Because I can see a really clear link there, and I'm wondering how you see that.
Absolutely. I think if your learning and your development can really help with your motivation in your role, growing personally, that's especially with such a young workforce, that what we have is we've got a lot of young people working for the organisation, and what's important for them is that they're able to learn, to grow into their roles, to grow professionally, to be able to learn new skills, and also to be able to be recognised for those new skills and the things that they've learned as well. So absolutely, I agree, it's really, really important, and that's why we have a dedicated learning and development advisor that just concentrates on that area, so that we know that we've got that part of the HR spectrum covered, because it is so important, and we recognise how important it is that all our staff feel that they've got the right skills and the tools to be able to do their jobs properly. And that's an ever-changing thing as well, you know, and that's something that we're learning from constantly as well, like trying to get feedback on what areas might help people in their roles, but it might be different for that team than it is for that team. And you know, it's a constant challenge being able to try and keep up with the new technologies and things like that, but it's exciting as well at the same time. But it is so important. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more.
Do you think there is also, within the training and development, do you think there is because obviously, I mean, most companies would focus on industry-specific skills and areas that are required for people to do a good job, right? But do you think there is a place within that for that personal development, which, you know, might be less tangible to measure the outcomes, but actually can have such a huge impact in terms of people's relationships, people's ways of working together, engagement, and the company as a whole?
Yeah, so we always do organisation-wide training. We have a focus on what we feel is important. Actually, it's been on the softer skills that we've been concentrating most of our efforts on. So our learning and development advisor, Daniel, he is a qualified crucial conversations coach. Everyone across the organisation has gone through that training with Daniel. We're doing a tone and style piece to help our frontline regulatory staff be able to communicate better with our external stakeholders and give them the confidence to be able to do that as well, you know, because that's really important. So the softer skills and the side of things is really important. We've also got an internal mentoring scheme so that everyone in the organisation is given an opportunity to learn from someone on what they might want to learn. It could be on the technical side of the roles, or it could be I really struggle doing presentations, or you know, I don't have a lot of confidence when I'm dealing with senior management. Can you help me try and learn some skills around that? So it ranges. We don't just concentrate on enhancing technical skills. We recognise that the soft skills are just as important, if not in some cases more important, because you know, you can go on a course and you can learn how to do something technically, but these softer skills are something that you're going to be able to take with you wherever you go. That's so important. What would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think the crucial conversations training that Daniel's rolled out has been really good, and I often find myself having conversations with people when they've come to me and, you know, they're having their little vent and talking about things, and I often refer them back to Daniel and say, go back to Daniel, have a look about how you can have this crucial conversation. He's going to give you some tips. Because again, like Kelly said, we have got a younger workforce, and sometimes it may come across as intimidating if they have to go and speak to a head or senior management. So they need to know how to have these crucial conversations with people, but you also find that it plays out in your personal life as well. So it's not just a work thing. You start learning how to have better conversations all the way around, so it works for your personal and for your work.
Yeah, I've used it a couple of times myself.
Yeah, it's great.
It's been really useful.
Yeah. very self-aware.
You
I
do,
think.
you do,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so would you say that the support you provide the whole spectrum, which is obviously there is the sort of more well-being on the side of when there is a problem occurring, and then there's the more proactive, preventative, helping people grow and develop, etc. Would you say that for you it doesn't really matter whether it is based on something personal or something work related, because ultimately it flows into one another, the effects sort of ripple out as a whole?
Yeah, it does definitely feed into each other. I mean, again, when we looked at the statistics yesterday for the EAP usage and the utilisation reports, we found that the majority of reasons why people were going to use the EAP service were due to mental health issues, personal reasons. The work-related issues were very, very small. I mean, they were there and they were present, but that wasn't why people were going to use the EAP service. So again, I think it just falls into, we do have that belief that, you know, it's not as easy to just leave your personal problems at the door, come to work, put 100% in for 7 hours and then leave. You know, sometimes people do need that extra support and help, and that's something that we're quite passionate about. I just feel that if somebody needs to come and see us and sit with us for half an hour and maybe discuss something that's going on in their personal life, and we can help them, or we can tell them to go somewhere else if we can't help them, and give them the proper services that they need, and then they can go back to work and sit at their desk and go, oh, I feel a little bit better now, you know, it's not constantly my mind.
You know, leaving your problems at the door is a really outdated notion, because, you know, someone's personal problems might be affecting their performance. We don't know about that, then how are we going to be able to help? So we really, you know, we encourage people to come and talk to us, because if it is affecting them professionally, then there's some things that we can do to support them through that until they get themselves back on track, or we can help them get back on track. So it all links. Yeah,
one of the initiatives popped in place as well is that we've put in meetings with all the managers and heads every 2 months for us to just sit down and discuss the team and see how they're getting on, and see if there's any problems, and see if they need any help other than work related help, which I think is going to be really, really beneficial as well. So it's just all those kind of things fall under the wellbeing umbrella, I think.
Yes.
Things that fall under wellbeing that people don't even realise fall under wellbeing. And I think the work that Nadine's going to be doing with the wellbeing team this year is to kind of have that in a place that everyone recognises, actually this falls under wellbeing, and if you want more information about it, you can speak to this person, this person, this person, not just in HR but across the organisation, and hopefully have a centralised area as well where people can go and get all the information from as well.
Yeah, wow, wonderful. So I have a question which probably requires your personal view on it, because there probably isn't a right answer. I mean, with none of this there is a right answer, but with the increases in technology, I mean, we've already experienced a lot of that. I mean, you know, 25, 30 years ago, there were no mobile phones. We're constantly connected. So there's already a huge change in technology and how we live and how we work. But the way technology is developing, AI, etc., this is obviously going to increase. It's going to affect the way we work. It's going to affect the way we live. And what do you think is required to sustain a thriving workforce, with considering all those changes that we are going to be up against?
That's a good question. I think, again, we just have to try and stay on top of changes as much as possible, to try and stay as current as we possibly can, and have a look at how we can introduce technologies to help benefit our employees. We don't know exactly what the answer is going to be there and what that might look like, but it helps, like I was saying before, with the wellbeing team. What Nadine and the team are going to hopefully look towards having at the end is an annual program of wellbeing, that we're constantly staying on top of, but having an area that people can go to where they can visit and have this information themselves, so they're able to access it via whatever technology that they're using, get the information themselves, because we're in an age now where we're used to having everything at the touch of a button, and it can be quite frustrating. What I found is it can be quite frustrating if you don't have that automatic access. So Nadine might be in a meeting, for example, but it'd be good for if someone can have access to that information, like with our healthcare as well.
Yeah,
we've got an app that we can use so that you go to the doctors, you can automatically make a claim. Like, you could make the claim on your phone at the doctors and just upload the receipt straight away. It's kind of staying on top of all of these things and making it easy for people to use, to understand. I think the technology as well, it scares a lot of people in terms of the jargon, the language. So what we try and do is simplify all that language down and make it easy for people to understand so that they can use things themselves. It all links back to people being able to have that quick, easy access to the tools and the benefits that are available to them. I think we don't know the answer because it's always changing, but just trying to stay current, trying to keep on top of things, for us to be able to understand it so that we're able to translate that for everybody to understand as well. That type of thing. I don't know, what do you think?
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes absolute sense. And I think it's great because obviously there is, sometimes there is that notion of, for example, when people are stressed or overwhelmed, etc. And it's the idea of, oh, well, you have to disconnect more, you need more downtime, etc. And it's 30 years ago, that may have been possible. That's not really possible now anymore. I mean, yes, you can switch your phone off and you can, silent your notifications, etc. But they also have done studies that say that if you do that, sometimes people get more stressed because then they come back to 500 emails in their inbox.
We had a conversation yesterday, didn't we?
This exact conversation. Yeah. I've just, not to brag, but I've just come back from 2 weeks in Bali, and it was like a break that I really, really needed. And I said to Hannah yesterday, I was like, and I said before I left, I'm going to take my emails off my phone because I really need this 2 weeks to not think about work at all. And Hannah said, that would stress me out more, not having the email. So yes, she'll choose to look at it when she wants to, but what has worked for me wouldn't work for Hannah. So, it just brings it back to that human element again, doesn't it? It's like everybody's different.
Definitely.
And what might work for me might not work for the next person. But I can tell you, it was good for the soul to not look at my email.
I can imagine, for 2 weeks. But there's no one size fits all, or not even one size fits all, but also not one, another occasion, maybe you have a long weekend, maybe you prefer to keep an eye on your emails. It really comes down to where you're at in that moment. But I think that idea that we can change our circumstances and just disconnect becomes less and less easy. And what I can see in my work is that the importance around helping people have a different relationship to the volume of work and that constant connectivity, and increasing people's resilience, and also their adaptability, so that we're, that sort of 9 to 5, that adaptability, that flexibility to work, and then maybe you're dashing out to pick your child up from school, drop them off, and you're back at work. Being adaptable in that sense in our everyday life, but also being adaptable in, upskilling, changing, reinventing, because most of us are not going to stay in one job for our whole working life. And that is a big change that has occurred in the last sort of 30 years. I mean, I know my parents, it was what they've learned, and that's what they carried on doing for the rest of their lives. In fact, they still do. But for us, that's, there's a constant change, a constant shift, and that requires that resilience, that well-being, that thriving, that all of that is really important to enable us to do that.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And you know, we've been really lucky that we work for an organisation who likes to look at different ways that we can help our staff. We did a revision of our staff handbook a couple of years ago now.
Yeah, about 2 years ago.
Time flies. And you know, we looked at different flexible working arrangements for the examples that you were just talking about then. And you know, we found that things like that have really helped take the pressure off people when they know, actually, you know, oh, my boiler's broke, can I work from home for this afternoon so that, you know, Joe Bloggs can come round and fix my boiler, and they can still be able to work from home. They don't have to necessarily take leave to be able to do that, or, you know, help with childcare.
Exactly.
You know,
and not dictating lunch hours. So, you know, we're above the gym. You know, we have people that want to go down to the gym, but during 1 and 2 o'clock, it's a really busy period. So we don't dictate lunch hours as long as it doesn't interfere with your calendar, or you don't have meetings. If you want to have your lunch break at 11 and go down to the gym, absolutely go down. If you want to have your lunch break at 3 because you might have a dentist appointment, or you just want to go over to Morrison's to do a bit of your weekly shopping, again, as long as you manage it properly and it doesn't interfere with any meetings that you have, we are very much like, take your lunch break when you need to take it, as opposed to these are the hours you can take it and that's it.
So it's treating people like humans. Really. You know, and allowing them to do what they need to do in all ways, work related and in their personal life related to that, and trusting them.
Exactly, and trust is like a really important word, I would say, because we work on a basis of trust. None of it's monitored in terms of FOBs or stats. You know, we treat people like adults, and we trust that they manage their own time effectively. You know, simple as that.
We just live in a busy world now, don't we? That if you don't allow people that bit of a freedom, then it just becomes very, very difficult. You know, again, we have the flexi time as well. So people can either come in at 8 or come in at 9. You know, it's just dependent, because one size doesn't fit all. People are different. Some people have children. Some people want to take their children to school and then come to work. And that's really important that they do that. If that's what they want to do. Some people, I like to come into work really early. I like to be here at 8:30. Some people like to have a little bit of a lie-in and come in a little bit later, don't they? But it just depends on the individual. So again, it's that one size doesn't fit all.
Yes, yeah, and I think that's a key point to take away, that it really comes down to the people that are there and what do they need to be able to do the best work and have a good life, and it all being a well-rounded experience, so to speak.
Exactly. I mean, you're never going to please everybody, but I think if you can try and be as adaptable as possible to allow people, you know, that like, you know, coming in early or coming in later, giving them that little bit of freedom, allowing them to decide when they take their lunch break for whatever reason, it makes things easier for each individual.
Yes, yeah. Well, we have gone over time already, so I'm very sorry. It's been slightly longer. I could carry on. I've got loads more questions I could ask you, and maybe we'll just have to do a follow-up one day. But thank you so much, both of you, for taking the time to really share, you know, all the great work you guys are doing. And obviously, if people have any questions, you know, they can obviously comment on the video or ask questions, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely, yeah, we love to talk about this, as you can tell.
Yes.
So anytime anyone's got any questions, or they want to have, you know, a call or whatever, we're happy to talk about this, because especially Nadine, she put so much time and effort into well-being. It's very close to your heart.
It is.
And we're passionate about the subject, so we're happy to have a talk anytime.
Fantastic, great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.